All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown. All three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing Running Blind by Lee Child. This is book number 4 in his Jack Reacher thriller series. I think there's something like 24 books in the series that I have, all written by Lee Child. Now, the series is still being written by his nephew or brother or son or something like that. But I stopped collecting them after Lee Child stopped being the #1 author. Although I still collect some of the Tom Clancy books, even though Tom Clancy's dead and people are writing it. The way that I choose collaborations are not my favorite things. That's why I don't read James Patterson. But anyway, I've read all, we've got all the Lee Childs here that Lee Child actually wrote that he didn't collaborate with his brother or son or nephew or, second cousin or whatever it is. So Jack Reacher, let's describe Jack Reacher. Well, let's talk about the cover first. It's all right. I mean, it's just a snowy field with a road in it, and I'm not sure if I like the Jack Reacher part being so big on the cover. I know that they put it big on there so people will know this is Jack, because Jack Reacher is a much bigger name than Lee Child, just like, James Bond is a much bigger name than Ian Fleming. Whereas something like Tom Clancy and Jack Ryan are about equal, Okay, but anyway, so I get why they put that on there. They got a photo of the dude on the back, so that's the cover. So this came out in the year 2000, so it's older, 25 years old anyway. So Jack Reacher, if you don't know who he is, he's this ex-military police guy. He's enormous. He's like 6'4" or 6'6", 250 or 280 pounds, straight muscle. Doesn't look anything like Tom Cruise. Looks more like the guy that plays Jack Reacher in the TV show. But anyway, everywhere he goes, he's just the smartest guy in the room. He's the toughest guy in the room. He's the most witty guy in the room. This is like a male fantasy. This is male fantasy romance thriller fiction. That's what this is. Women, there's the romantasy genre, there's the romance genre, all of those things. Dudes typically don't read. Dudes typically read this. It's male fantasy. It's like, I want to be Jack Reacher. Who doesn't want to be Jack Reacher? Who doesn't want to be the smartest guy in the room, the toughest guy in the room, and the wittiest guy in the room all the time? Who doesn't want to win every single fight they're in, every single argument they're in, and be funnier than everybody else all the time? That's Jack Reacher. So anyway, I'm going to read the brief little summary on the back, and then I'll talk a little bit about the book, because the summary is really brief. Across the country, women are being murdered, victims of a disciplined and clever killer who leaves no trace, no evidence, no fatal wounds, no signs of struggle, and no clues to an apparent motive. They are truly perfect crimes. In fact, there's only one thing that links the victim. Each of the women knew Jack Reacher, and it's got him running blind. So yeah, we open up with Jack Reacher. He's in New York City. He beats a couple of guys up that are bullying a restaurant owner, and the guys that he beats up happen to be tied to the mob in New York City. So that's a subplot that follows through this entire novel. As Jack Reacher is driving through upstate New York, he's pulled over by the FBI. He's questioned about his previous career as a military police officer. The questions start to become pretty sus, pretty sketch. So now Jack Reacher is like, well, what's going on? What's really going on? Well, turns out what's really going on is 2 women that he knew as a investigator for the police department in the military have been murdered. The only connection to these women, because they lived way far away from each other, is they both knew Jack Reacher. They were both part of some cases that Jack Reacher had investigated as military police. And the cops are convinced that Jack Reacher fits the profile of a serial killer. Because not only is Jack Reacher the smartest guy in the room, the toughest guy in the room, the funniest guy in the room. None of those things really are serial killer, you know, credentials. However, the one serial killer credential that Jack Reacher has is he's a loner. He has no residence. He doesn't live anywhere. He's a drifter. He's a traveler. He just goes from place to place hitchhiking. That's kind of what, we'll edit that out. It's kind of how serial killers, every serial killer is different. But anyway, the FBI in this case thinks that Jack Reacher fits the profile. Now, Jack Reacher, his girlfriend ends up being his lawyer. They go into this investigation. More girls are murdered. The girls that are murdered are also tied to Jack Reacher's previous career in the military police. This is the plot of the novel. Very little action. On book 4, the first 3 books, it was nonstop action. This is very little action. This is actually more of a forensics, police procedural, serial killer whodunit than, your typical Jack Reacher, let's just bust the out of everybody. So, I thought it was kind of an interesting twist on the story of the typical Jack Reacher where he just goes into a new town and kicks everyone's ass. This one he's kind of like trying to solve a murder mystery that he's an active part of, that he's a suspect in. And so it was all right. It was okay. I don't think I like it as much as the typical Jack Reacher storyline. So I'm going to give Running Blind, book 4 in the Jack Reacher series, a solid 8 out of 10. It's a decent entry into the series. It's a little bit different of an entry into the series, but I think everybody that loves Reacher is going to like it.